Good morning. For today, we will be talking about solid state, which is the chapter 2 of our module. Okay, so for the summary, let us be reminded that when you were in your senior high school and in your junior high school chemistry, inulit-ulit natin that solid is a matter that has a fixed volume and a fixed shape. This means na ang isang solid ay meron siyang definite volume. Pag sinabi nating definite volume, yung timbang niya ay definite and then definite shape. Okay? While kapag dinifferentiate natin si solid from liquid, si liquid may fixed volume siya pero wala siyang definite shape. Kasi remember, liquid takes the shape of its container. While si gas is wala siyang definite volume and definite shape. Again, it's because of their molecular properties. So remember also the fourth type of matter is the plasma. Kung saan ang pagkakaiba ni plasma from other types of matter is that it has no fixed volume and shape, and ang plasma po is similar to a gas, pero ang pagkakaiba niya kay gas is nagko-conduct siya ng electricity and then meron siyang reaction to a magnetism. So here, let us be reminded that the solid, liquid, gas, and the Bose-Einstein condensate or the five states of matter ay nakadepende siya sa kinetic energy on its particle. So meaning to say, kung ano yung available na kinetic energy of each particle of that matter, it determines its states. Whether magiging siyang liquid, solid, gas, plasma, or Bose-Einstein condensate. Okay, so let us now have an introduction about matter. Ulitin ko ulit, matter is anything that has space, that occupies space and has mass. Pag sinabi nating mass, timbang. Pag sinabi nating space, it occupies space. Pag nandun na yung isang object na yun, yung ino-occupy niyang space ay hindi na pwedeng ma-occupy pa ng ibang object. Okay? Kasi na-occupy niya na yung space. Halimbawa, nagpatong ka ng isang libro. So, yung libro na yun is, yung space na na-occupy nung libro na yun ay hindi na pwede siyang malagyan nung another book ngayon kunyari on the same space unless you remove that book. Probably, you can put another book at the top of the first book. Okay? Example of matter natin is sodium chloride or our salt, water, H2O, and then carbon dioxide. Si sodium chloride is a solid, water is a liquid, and then carbon dioxide is a gas. Okay, remember also that living things are composed of matter. And then, ang living beings or living things ay meron siyang tinataglay na different states of matter. And remember, matter can exist in three types. So, we have solid, liquid, and gas. Example ng solid natin is si NaCl. Na stands for sodium, Cl stands for chloride, AgCl, that is silver, and then chloride. Okay, another type of matter is liquid. Example of that is H2O or water, H2O2 or hydrogen peroxide, and then C2H5OH, this is our ethanol. Okay, and for the gas, we have carbon monoxide, which is the CO, and then CO2, carbon dioxide, oxygen, and nitrogen, and other forms as well. Okay, you can see here na in the figure that solid, liquid, gases have different types of fashion and freedom of movement of particles. Example, a solid, makita natin na si solid dito is meron siyang fixed pattern. Pag sinabi nating fixed pattern, magkalalapit siya or magkadidikit or closely packed ang term. Pag liquid naman is medyo packed siya or medyo malalapit yung particles niya with each other pero may spaces siya that allows them to move freely. Well, for the gas can gas molecules are separated from each other or far from each other, and then they can move freely, okay, without bouncing with each other. And you can see in the figure the different possible processes that needs to transform a solid to liquid and liquid to gas and vice versa. Sa example, mababanggit din naman siya sa ulihan, kapag si solid ay magiging liquid, siya ay melting. Pero kung si liquid gagawin nating solid, babalik na din natin yung process that is now a freezing. Okay, freezing. Okay, from liquid to gas, gagawin natin gas si liquid, that is evaporation ang term. And then si gas gusto natin gawing liquid, that is condensation. And then for the gas, si solid pwede siyang maging gas without becoming a liquid. Ang tawag natin doon is sublimation. Okay? Remember, you can interconvert each other. Pwede mo siyang i-convert from one phase to another as long as a certain temperature level is attained. May requirement kasi siya ng temperature. Halimbawa, si solid na ice, gusto natin siyang maging liquid. So, ilagay lang natin siya at a certain room temperature, kunyari 26 degrees centigrade or Celsius, magiging siyang liquid. Yung ice, which is a solid water. And then pressure as well. Okay? Pag sinabi nating pressure, may mga instances na the higher the pressure, the lower the possibility of becoming the molecules of that matter be closely packed with each other. Okay? So, ito yung binanggit ko kanina example. Lagyan natin ng temperature si solid, magiging siyang liquid. Okay? Lagyan natin ng heat yung liquid, pwede siyang maging gas. And again, yung liquid natin magiging siyang vapor or ang process niya is evaporation. And then for reverse process of that, aalisin natin yung heat, tatanggalin natin yung heat or tatanggalin natin yung heat. So magiging siyang si liquid, magiging siya ngayong solid, that is now freezing. Pero kapag si liquid, si gas, nawalan siya ng heat, example sa cloud natin, medyo malamig yung cloud natin, that is why nagko-condense doon yung mga gaseous particles ng water, and then later on magiging siyang ulan. Ang tawag natin doon is condensation. Example of that is nagpapakulo ka ng sinaing, makita nyo wala ng water yung kanin pag binuksan nyo yung kaldero, pero nasa may kaldero yung mga tubig niya, and that is now a condensed water vapor. Okay? Next is, remember, a solid po is a material that has a definite volume and definite shape. Basta kahit anong gawin natin, yan yung kanyang property. And then, remember, pwede siyang maging regular repeating units. So, yung solid natin, pwede siyang maging crystalline material. And then, kapag wala siyang structural order at wala din siyang structural order ng kanyang material, pwede siyang maging amorphous substance. Later, it will be discussed further. Okay? So, ano pagkakaiba ng dalawa? Pag yung ionic salt, ang mabubuo niya is crystalline structure. So, dito, ang nangyayari, nagkakaroon tayo ng crystalline structure kasi napakataas ng kanyang melting point and yung attraction between ions are very strong. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng salts because of ionic bonding. So, dito, yung crystal containing infinite pattern of ions, atoms, or molecules, or tinatawag nating crystal lattice are packed together. Okay? So, ang crystalline solids natin are fixed in geometrical shape. Makikita natin yan yung mga pattern or geometric pattern or lattices later. And then, nakadepende po siya kung anong klase ng substance yung nagbaband. Pwede siyang maging ionic, pwede siyang maging covalent, or metallic. Okay, pag ionic, Ano pagkakaiba ng ionic, covalent, or metallic? Ano po? So, pag sinabi nating ionic, okay, let us review na lang later what is ionic, covalent, and metallic bonding. Kasi this is basic chemistry po. So, if I'm not mistaken, metals to metals, that is metallic bonding. Metals and non-metals, that is covalent or baliktad. And then ionic is metal and metalloid ata. So, I'm not really sure. We will just correct it later. Okay? So, ang solid natin, kadalasan siyang may 4 types. Molecular, ionic, covalent network, or metallic. So, pag sinabi nating molecular solids, tandaan ang keyword. Anyway, hindi tayo masyado dito sa mga chemical terms. Tandaan lang na ang molecular solids ay nabubuo from atoms. So, remember, molecular solids are formed from the atoms. So, anong pagkakaiba neto sa ibang forms of solid? So, here, yung molecular crystals ay meron siyang low melting point. Madali siyang malusaw. Okay? And almost liquid in all and at room temperature. And then here, yung mga organic solid neto ay usually po many solid, especially organic solids. So, pag sinabi nating organic, coming from living organism or living being. And then, the melting point of this are usually below 300 degrees centigrade. That is why wala siyang electricity in either solid or liquid state. Okay? Ionic naman are substances that are, or solids that are formed from ions. So remember, ionic solids are arranged in fixed geometric pattern or lattices. Example of this is sodium chloride and potassium chloride. So here they are crystals. Remember, salt is a crystal one, but they are typically crystalline and exist as fine powder. When I say fine powder, medyo maliliit yung kanyang particles. And then usually po, mataas ang melting points nito, above 300 degrees centigrade, but usually nagre-range lang siya ng 300 degree to 1,000 degrees centigrade or Celsius. Ang property niya is pwede siyang mag-conduct ng electricity. So here, in solid state, hindi. Pero pag liquid, yes. Kaya baga class, kapag medyo dehydrated kayo, pinapainom kayo ng Orisol. Pinagahalo lang siya. Or kung wala kayong Orisol, homemade Orisol, tama ako tayo? May combination siya na parang isang kutsaritang asin, tapos 2 kutsaritang sugar. Imimix mo siya in a 1 pitcher of water and iinumin mo siya para magkaroon ng electrolyte ang katawan mo. Kasi, remember, they conduct electricity. So, ito yung nakakapagpabilis ng metabolism natin kung hinang-hina ka na kasi dehydrated ka, nagdududumi ka, or nagtatatae. Okay? That is because ionic solution can conduct electric current. Okay, di ba meron tayong mga technology ngayon na gumagamit ng salt water as alternative source of electricity for their solar lamp. Pwedeng ganon. And then ionic substances are frequently but not always soluble in water. May ibang soluble, merong ibang hindi. Okay, we have now macromolecular solid. When I say macromolecular solid, these are solid at room temperature. Example neto is sig diamond and graphite. So usually po, itong letter C or macromolecular solid or network covalent solid ay napakataas ng melting point and hindi sila agad-agad na-decompose because of heat. So they do not conduct electricity and often good insulator. Sinabi natin good insulator, nag-absorb sila ng heat. And they are not really soluble in solvent. Example na to is diamond. We all know what is diamond. That is the hardest form of solid. And graphite. Graphite is yung, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, that is the color black of the pencil. Okay, yung tinta ng pencil. Next is si metallic solid. Metallic solid are formed from metals and they are very hard. Of course, kasi metal siya. Example is iron, nickel, and then tungsten, molybdenum, and copper. Okay? And here, most metallic solid are solid at room temperature. At in order for them to be melted, you have to have a high melting temperature. Okay, they are very good conductor of electricity in solid and in liquid form. That is why, yon, siya yung ginagawa natin mga wirings. Okay? Yung metallic solid. And they are not soluble. Hindi siya natutunaw unless magkaroon ng rusting or decomposition because of the presence of water. And many metals will chemically react with polar solvents because of this. Okay? And then, eto guys, sa mga pasusunod pang slide, hindi ko na i-emphasize kung ano yung mga may hirap pang terms, pero we'll try to discover the basics. Okay? So, when we say ionic solid, ang structure niya is meron siyang different kinds of ions and different sizes, and usually, consisting siya of 2 or more kind of ions. Meron tayong monoatomic and polyatomic ions. And remember, ions have different charges. So, pwede siyang cations and anions. Okay? That is the opposite of cations, si anions. Okay? And it can be determined by the relative size of the ions, kung ano yung sizes niya, kung malaki ba or hindi. And then number of positive and negative ions that is needed to maintain the electrical neutrality of the crystal. Kasi kung hindi niya ma-maintain yun, madidecompose yung kanyang structure or madidissociate yung structure, hindi na siya yung structure na yon. Okay? Mababago siya, yung crystal. Example nito is, in simple ionic structure natin or the anions, meron siyang larger na structure than the cations and they are closely packed. And then, yung spaces naman between anions ay tinatawag nating holes or interstices. Makikita nyo later ang example nito. And meron siyang dalawa, yung hole sa anion, we have tetrahedral and octahedral hole. This is an example of tetrahedral and octahedral hole. So here, si tetrahedral from the word three. Okay? Nabubuo yung hole because of the three structures closely packed with each other. Makikita nyo dito sa gilid, sa left area, na yung tatlo, pag pinagsama-sama mo yung isa, yung tingnan nyo, yung tatlo, nakabuo siya ng parang pa-triangle na hole. Okay? Pero pag pinagsama, dinagdagan mo pa siya ng another 2 sa gilid, yung nasa taas nyo, yung 2 layers, parehas lang din naman yung kanyang itsura ng hole. Pero pag octahedral, ang itsura niya is para siyang pentagon na yung hole because of the combination of 6 na ions. Okay, so ito yung binanggit dito kanina. And of course, this is depending on the relative size of the cations. Kapag maliit ang sizes ng cations, medyo maliit din yung size ng octahedral hole. Okay? Yan. And then, halimbawa niyan is, ayun, nag-overlap. 864 na coordination number. Cubic yung kanyang hole. Okay, pag sinabi natin cubic, 4 lang yung kanyang may corner. Pag 6 naman is octahedral. And then tetrahedral kapag 4. Okay, yung kanyang hole na ino-occupied. And then meron din tayong close packing of the crystalline solids. So here, yung constituent particles of the atoms are closely packed with each other. And nire-repeat nila yung pattern. And pag nire-repeat nila yung pattern, ang tawag natin doon ay close packing. Okay? And kapag closely packed yung crystalline solid, may possibility na meron siyang spaces or holes between each particle or between each ion. Okay? And then because of that, in solid po, meron siyang iba't ibang forms of sphere. Example is, or dimension, meron tayong 1 dimension, 2 dimension, and 3 dimension. Makita natin yung example niya sa sunod na slide. So, example is one dimension. Makita nyo dito sa pinaka-center yung figure. Pag sinabi natin one dimension, closely packed structure lang siya, arranged in only one way. Okay, wala siyang patong sa ibabaw, wala siyang pinapatungan sa ilalim. And then, they are arranged in a row, isang hilera lang siya, and touching with each other. Okay? Hence, this is, the coordination number of this is number 2. Ano po? And then, close packing into dimension, nagkakaroon po nito kapag nag-stack na tayo. Balikan natin yung single stacking, ito siya, or one dimension. Balikan natin siya, pag 2 dimension, pinatong natin yung 1 dimension. Okay? And magkakaroon siya ng square close packing and hexagonal close packing. Pag sinabi natin hexagonal, magkakaroon siya ng hexagonal hole in between. Ayan. So, example niyan is this one. Ano po, makikita nyo na yung pinakagitna niya or yung hole niya is pa-hexagonal. Okay? So, pinatong natin yung one dimension to another dimension. So, pinagpatong lang natin yung dalawang one dimension and nakabuo siya ng hexagonal hole in between. Okay? Thus, in this 2 dimension, meron siyang square close packing coordination number and 4 yung spheres niya na kailangang mabuo para mabuo yung isang hole. Okay, ang tawag ulit natin dito is square close packing. Next is 2-dimensional hexagonal close packing. Dito naman is 2-dimensional na siya. Makikita natin yung example niya dito. Okay, this one. Makikita nyo na ilan yung bilog para mabuo yung hexagonal niya. So, meron tayong 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, 6 siya. That is why in the corners, 6 spheres ang kailangan para mabuo ito. And then, ang corner of a regular hexagon yung mabubuo. Kaya tinatawag siyang 2-dimensional kasi makikita mo siya yung dimension niya sa left and sa bottom. And then, yung empty spaces niya is kitang-kita din. Okay? Or yung mga butas niya is kitang-kita din. Parang siyang pa-star. Ano po? And these are triangular in shape yung kanyang in-between holes. And in one arrow, or in one row, yung apex or yung triangle niya is pointing upward. And then the other one is pointing downward. So, tingnan nyo yung itsura nito sa yung kulay green. Yung isa is pointing upward yung arrow and then the other one is pointing downward yung arrow sa below. Okay? Another one is 3-dimensional close packing. Nabubuo ito kapag yung adjacent layer is put underneath. And then, they are perfectly aligned horizontal as well as vertical. Ano po? So, ito pa yung iba't ibang itsura ng mga sample ng structure. This is the structure of our salt. Okay? Paano mo siya madidissociate kapag ang ginawa natin is natanggal yung kanyang isang structure? Ang kanya kasing formula is 1:1. Meaning to say, kailangan natin siya ng 1 sodium and 1 chlorine. Kaya mapapansin nyo, magkatapat yung kulay red and gray na particle dito sa structure niya. Okay, pag nadugtungan siya ng another sodium chloride, so makakabuo siya ng another na structure. Dire-diretso lang siya. And then, ang kanyang itsura is pa-box lang talaga or pa-cube. Okay, and meron din tayong quartzite structure kagaya ng zinc sulfide structure. Papakita natin siya. Ayan, ito ang itsura ng zinc sulfide. Pa-quartzite yung kanyang structure. Meaning to say, kailangan mo ng tatlong what? Zinc, tapos, 1 zinc, 1 sulfur, and then yon. And then, tatlo siya para makabuo ka ng quartzite structure. Another one is fluorite structure, kagaya nitong sa calcium fluoride structure. So, dito sa fluorite structure, makikita nyo dito yung arrangement niya na meron siyang nasa gitna. Okay? And then for the rutile structure naman, gaya ng titanium dioxide structure, makita natin na kailangan mong makabuo ng 4:1, kagaya ng silicon oxide. So, tetrasilicon oxide pala. So, makikita nyo dito na 4 yung color gray, tama ba ako, or color black. So, 4 yung color black, meaning to say, 4 yung oxygen na naka-attach sa isang silicon. And then yung mga dulo-dulo niyan is magko-connect with each other to form this kind of rutile structure. Ayon. So, ayon, kung based from the foregoing presentation of different structure, makikita natin dito, why is it that the solid is so, some solid are can be easily dissolved, while the other ones cannot be dissolved completely without putting high temperature and pressure para masira na yung mga structure or chemical structure or ionic structure in between each molecule or each particle. Okay? So, maraming salamat sa pakikinig. Meron pa po akong another recording kasunod nito. Salamat po.